Bible. Aren't you trying to raise him right?
Your puppy?
It wasn't on the list.
Get-togethers coming up.
I took him over to my daughter's to
But
spend
now
the
they got
weekend
now
with
nothing.
his brothers.
Oh, well,
And his mom.
Yeah.
Until I went on
It
the
was on the
trip.
list that I
Are
found.
you, you're not.
He was an indoor dog when I took him over here. And when
Big
I
loss.
picked him up, he was an outdoor dog.
He's an outdoor dog now?
Yeah, he just stands at the door, and I'm like, hear that noise? It's called coyotes.
Last time I don't got it
They
was
sat there.
so
Don't worry
they
about
take
it.
him inside.
dog.
I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking of,
There's another puppy outside. If he goes outside.
I have no idea what he thinks. I've only had him a week. I'm too excited to get time to figure out what he thinks.
It's on Tuesday morning, right?
Except I want
I don't go by that
my
one.
ear at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm looking for something specific. I walk in the store, I go, look for it, come back.
We are.
I don't like, that's why I don't like going.
He wanted to keep his country. I want him to take that pet food I got for him. And I need to increase what
But
I
if I don't
do.
think just exactly what
But I took
it
him off
is.
formula. You know,
then what
I took him off
happens?
formula or something.
First.
Okay. So, welcome back, everyone. Hope you all survived the snowpocalypse of last week. Looks like you did, yeah. So, it's amazing. Let's see. 6 days ago, we were below zero temperatures here in northwest Arkansas. And today it's going to be 70. Welcome to Arkansas. Here's my question. First question: did anybody get out and actually do anything in the snow? Just looked at it.
I didn't go out until Saturday.
Yeah.
My driveway, I just waited.
Didn't even bother.
I went out every morning and picked the ice, broke the ice for the horses so they could have water.
That's good.
So that was in my yard. You could see those footprints.
There's a track
Trough and
right
back
there.
to trough and back.
Yep.
I shoveled my roundabout and my front step and the side, but I got this little shovel. I
Yeah.
don't have a big shovel, so I can, and I wanted to get it before people walked on it. It turned out.
Yeah.
So I got it.
Yeah. Did you get it all
I
done?
can't walk because I don't want to take a chance on falling on ice. So,
Right. So nobody got out and made a snowman. No snow ice cream, anything like that. Yeah.
I did watch my neighbor kids on their side. They were
Yeah.
over and I watched.
That's good. That's good.
I'm proud of myself for cleaning out the sidewalk.
That is good. That's real good. I know. That's why I was after it got done snowing. I got out before it started, or as it was starting on Tuesday, and laid out a bunch of tarps so that when it was done snowing, I could pull that off for the dogs. You know. So yeah, saw that on social media. Like it creates a nice little grassy place for your dogs to go. So when the snow was all done, then the shoveling started, and it was not easy. I got pretty much everything done. You know, we got a really long sidewalk that goes along the front of our house and then our driveway. And by the time I got done with all that, I was like, man, I'm not the age of somebody that should be doing this anymore. Seriously. So anyway,
Well, they said it was
yeah,
going to be a dry snow, and I thought, oh, good, I could just take my blower, you know.
it wasn't that dry.
It wasn't.
It was not that dry for sure. Yeah. Okay, here's a few facts about snow, just as we get started. Just, you know, as it's going to be, again, 70 degrees today. But let's find out some things about snow. In 1992, I'm just going to tell them to you. In 1992, the City Council of Syracuse, New York, passed a decree that any more snow before Christmas Eve was illegal. They were tired of snow, and the city council was like, we officially decree any more snow before Christmas Eve is illegal. But then they got more snow 2 days later, so it didn't really work. But they tried. Yeah. I don't know how you would enforce that against Mother Nature, but they tried. Okay, did you know that the phrase "no two snowflakes are the same" is actually a myth?
Yes.
Oh, really?
There's a scientist who actually found, like, I guess under a microscope, two identical snow crystals in Wisconsin in 1988. So maybe it was just a one-time thing. I don't know, but apparently you can't say that anymore because
You could do that.
Do it before it melted.
That's what I was sitting here thinking.
I don't know.
Because you got the light under a microscope anyway.
But
so-
you can make like your laboratories like really cold and stuff, and I don't know.
It would be like he was super bored and he was
Get out those magnifying glass. You know what? That looks exactly the same. I don't know. Okay, just in the U.S., at least 1 septillion ice crystals fall from the sky each year. That is a 1 with 24 zeros after it. 1 septillion ice crystals fall from the sky just in the U.S. That's a good question. I don't know, because I don't think that's just snow. I think that's including like sleet and stuff too. So that many ice crystals fall every year. The record for the biggest snowfall in a 24-hour period. What do you think? 24-hour period, one straight snowfall.
15 feet. 15 feet.
Not that much. No, single digits. Single digits.
Single digit.
Mhm.
Oh, it's a single digit?
Uh huh.
9 feet.
Oh.
It was 6 feet. It was actually a little over 6 feet. 75.8 inches in 1921.
Let's
Sorry.
go
Okay.
centimeters. Can we just say-
75.8 inches.
Then it snows again on top of it, because
I'm-
where I grew up, you could walk out your upstairs windows and walk across the street.
Yeah, this is just talking about how much actually, like, I guess your snow gauge or whatever, how much in a 24-hour period. So from 2:30 p.m. on April 14th, 1921 till 2:30 p.m. on April 15th in Silver Lake, Colorado. 6 feet of snow for 24 hours.
I mean, and that's all sitting in the clouds. Like,
Yeah,
sits in
and
the
just-
clouds and comes down.
Mm-hmm. Now, record for most snow, this is also in Colorado, the record for the most snow in a single calendar day. So not 24-hour period, but just on a day. How much?
12 to 12.
20.
Well, it's got to be less than.
It's got to be less, right? Yeah.
34 inches.
5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, close to 5 feet of snow. 63 inches
Okay.
in a calendar day. And that was in Georgetown, Colorado. So if you are 5 feet tall or shorter, you got covered up in snow on that particular day.
How long?
That was December 4th of 1913. So it hasn't happened recently. It's been, 100 years ago. What's at least one city in the United States that has never, ever recorded a snowfall?
Brownsville.
What?
Brownsville, Texas.
Brownsville, Texas? I don't know. Is that true? I don't know.
That's the southernmost point. It's like that's like.
It's not the southernmost point of the U.S.
Oh, you're talking about
Hawaii.
Hawaii?
No.
Hawaii's had snow. I found that.
I
out.
think
Right?
Hawaii's
Further-
got snow.
Is it further south than like Miami and down
Oh,
by
I don't
New
know.
Orleans?
I don't know.
Key West.
Key West. That's
Key
not-
West,
Ah,
which is the southernmost part of the U.S. They have this big thing that I got my picture next to it.
there's my Texas arrogance right there. Like,
Yeah.
we have the southernmost
You
point.
got the southernmost part in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. But in Key West, the coldest temperature ever recorded there, it happened twice,
72.
41.
Okay.
It's never gotten below freezing there before. It's been 41 twice.
You know that was horrible for the. 'Cause they don't
I'm
have
sure that was
coats. They don't-
terrible.
Yeah, yeah, that never happens. Okay, I got two more. Biggest gathering of snow angels at one location. So a bunch of people at one location.
I've seen it.
She says 300. Anybody
Like,
else?
That is the snow angel.
Yeah. How many? There's a bunch of people that all just fell down the snow together and made snow angels.
900. 900.
I've seen a picture somewhere where they were doing it, but I can't remember.
Well, it was in Bismarck, North Dakota. So
Oh.
maybe that's why you saw the picture. Yeah.
I said 300.
It was in 2007. 8,962.
You get that many people.
Bismarck practice.
Yeah, the
Probably.
entire city.
8,962 people all got together and fell down the snow and made snow angels at the same time.
And they're in the Guinness.
Yeah.
I would think
All
so.
8,000.
I would think so. Now, the biggest snowball fight was in 2016 in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which is in Canada. In case you didn't know where that was. How many people participated in this
say
Snowball fight.
8,000 again.
Pretty close.
10,000.
7,681 people.
And they planned it ahead of time.
Yeah, and everybody was there wherever it was. They all got there at the same time. Everybody got a snowball and started snowball
See,
fighting.
but I look at that two ways, because when you said the biggest snowball, I thought making a snowball and throwing a snowball.
No, the biggest snowball fight. The biggest snow, and like most participants at one time in a snowball
See,
fight.
if the people in North Dakota would have just said, "Okay, right after you do your angel, get one
Just
snowball
pop up and throw it at somebody. They could have
You
won.
get both, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They just
But
did
this
the same
happened after that, so
Oh,
you know,
okay.
yeah. So anyway, there's some fun facts for the snow.
What do you think now?
Now that we've
My hometown in North Dakota, they're in the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest pot of chili. They had
For
a
your chili
great
supper.
big cooker thing made that was on a trailer.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
wow.
I wonder how many gallons.
I think
You need to
I
ask
think
if
it
you can
ended up to
borrow
be
it.
almost,
But there's no way we could eat that much.
We need that for the missions.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pounds were in there in
I'll have
the
to
end,
look.
but it was
It's got to be
Did
incredible.
everybody contribute or was it stored?
kind of both, I think. You know,
That's crazy.
that's happened since I lived up there, but I was up there after the fact and got to see the cooker that they built.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Chili cook-off March 2nd, 5 to 7.
This coming Sunday, everybody needs to be there. Be there. Be there. Be there. Bring your chili. Bring your cash and eat some chili. Do both.
Let's go. Yeah.
Bring chili and eat other people's chili. You need to tell your American Legion
They
folks
just had theirs.
that they should come and.
They're going to be
Hang
hungry
out at
again
ours.
from 5 to 7 p.m. on March 2nd.
Did I burn bridges? I didn't get to be a judge again.
I don't know who. I was gone when they were getting all that set up. Sorry.
I was really hoping.
But I didn't go for the chili.
So when I went home this last time, I packed my big heavy winter coat.
Mm-hmm.
I only used it once while I was up there.
Is that right?
But then I
Yeah,
had
oh.
to leave it up there because I was bringing some clothes home that was my sister's.
Yeah.
And then we had the snow.
Yeah.
And
And then you were stuck.
then I don't have
Yeah.
But I wasn't
Yeah.
out anyway.
Well, I'm glad we all made it through. So in 1 Peter chapter 4, this is part 3 of this particular chapter. But that's okay. There's been a lot of stuff that we've been going through. So just to give you just a quick reminder, Peter has said at the beginning of this chapter, like, hey, this is the life that you used to live. This is who you used to be, but you're not doing those things anymore. You spend enough time there, but you need to stop doing those actions, and you need to start living the way that you're supposed to. And then he goes on and talks about here's what that looks like. You need to practice love. You need to practice hospitality. He went through 2 or 3 of those things and said even when your neighbors are surprised that you're not doing the things that they are, that's okay because you've been called to something higher. Okay. And then last week we dove into that some more. So we talked about hospitality, and we talked about the words that come out of our mouths and all these different things we're supposed to be doing to demonstrate that we are living for God, and ultimately those actions that we're taking, those things that we're doing, are not to make ourselves look good, but to bring glory and honor to God and cause other people to want to experience a relationship with Him. That's a really quick summation of the last 2 classes that we've had on 1 Peter 4. So we ended last week right at verse 12 because I said, hey, he's going to talk about suffering again. So it's probably like the 3rd time, I think. It's been multiple times. I don't know. The homeschoolers are tearing up our building, so we'll just...
Oh, yeah, it does sound like that.
Oh, it might have been the dumpster. Now I'm still going to blame it on the homeschoolers. Anyway. So what I want to do is start in verse 12 and read through the end of the chapter, and
So that we can say we finished it.
yeah, and then we may get on into chapter 5. We'll see, but we'll definitely be done with chapter 4 today. Okay. He says, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the painful trial you are suffering, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice that you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when His glory is revealed. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. If you suffer, it should not be as a murderer or thief or any other kind of criminal, or even as a meddler. However, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. For it is time for judgment to begin with the family of God. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if it's hard for the righteous to be saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? So then, those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. Okay. So,
Before you go any further,
yes, ma'am, go ahead.
verse 14.
Read verse 14. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you.
Was KJ?
Mine adds, on their part, he is blasphemed, but on your part, he is glorified. Is that not added in yours?
Man, I don't even have that.
That's because y'all don't do King James.
You're right. I mean, we should have.
I think the word blasphemed, right?
Yeah.
No,
I don't even have a footnote that says that though, Lou. I'll have to find out about that.
But it just says that.
Yeah,
That verse.
Can we call him up, see what he was thinking?
Yeah, let's call King James. Oh, King, what were you thinking? Let's go back to verse 12. And what does he say here? You actually acknowledges you are going through some difficult circumstances. You are suffering. But what does he say about it? Don't be surprised. Okay. Now, part of that could be because, again, this is like the third, maybe the fourth time that he said this,
So
or
we should be
has
surprised.
talked about suffering.
Yeah.
But he says, he acknowledges, he's kind of hinted at it before, like if you are going to suffer because of this or whatever, but now he's actually saying like, hey, I know you're going through something. He kind of said it in chapter 1 too, but he's acknowledging it again, like I'm acknowledging you're going through difficult circumstances, and the reason that you're going through that is because of your faith. Mm-hmm. And to remind you guys again, probably at this point in church history, it's not necessarily Christians losing their lives. They may be losing their livelihood. They may be losing some status in the community. They may be ostracized and kind of, not included in maybe some of the things that are happening in their cities. Maybe some property being taken away or people not doing business with them, whatever. But they're not getting dragged into the arena and being crucified or wild animals released on them yet. That will happen in our church history. It's probably not what Peter's talking about here, okay? But that handful of things that I just listed off, I mean, if you're dealing with that, if you're being a good person and people are still, not doing business with you or mistreating you, calling you names, talking bad about you to other people, maybe behind your back or maybe to your face, like you would want to retaliate, or you would want to you would at least be frustrated, like this is not fair. And Peter's like, well, don't be surprised. Almost like just it's going to happen. And you shouldn't be shocked at it. You shouldn't be like, well, where is this coming from? Peter's like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. He's dealt with it himself. If you read through the book of Acts, there's, more than once that Peter got arrested and thrown in jail for just talking about his faith. And so he's coming from a perspective, not just telling people what to do, but from a place of personal experience. Anyway, anything else about that you want to chip in with?
A term in mixed martial arts that says the worst punch is the one that you don't see, right? So if you're not prepared for it, well, you could get knocked out because you're not tense and you're not ready for it. And so for us, I think if we go through not like intense persecution like we're talking about, but we're close, and I think we'll enter into a space where, if we're not already there, where we speak up for the needs of people in our community and we're chastised for it because of our faith, or because there's lots of things politically and stuff like that where because we align with Scripture and not with the community, they can say that we're bigoted haters or those kinds of things stuff too. And he's like, hey, that's not a surprise. And so we can't be like, what?
How in the
said
world?
That about me? And
Yeah.
I think we can feel that in the moment, but that's like why we talk about, hey, we're going to go through stuff so we can prepare ourselves to be like, yeah, I mean, it's just a part of being a Christian. It's part of following Christ is the fact that we're going to be, that's what Christ said, the world will hate you. The world will hate you. And so if the world hated the perfect Savior and crucified him, we shouldn't expect anything other than that. So the fiery trial that he's talking about, see that thing is coming and realize that it's not strange. That's what my version says. As if it's something strange, like, wow, man, this is crazy.
This is
happening to
bizarre.
me. It's like, well, in our church, we should all feel like we're strange
Yeah.
because, like, I mean, it's
you're
a normal.
right.
Yeah, that's just me. I'm just strange here.
I'm just
revealing my
I'm
heart.
weird.
I'm just weird.
Yeah.
Right? That's why they have the bumper stickers that say "not of this world." It's because if we're really not of this world, then it's gonna be strange.
Mhm.
And
Well, we suffer. I mean, not we, but everybody suffers. Like, well, Mariette.
all the time.
Yeah. Mariette and Pam just lost siblings, and
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
suffering.
Mhm.
There was a book years ago called "Why Bad Things Happen to Good People."
Mhm.
We all have to suffer. I think Christians have a better grasp on suffering
Mhm.
because we know that's not the end.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
And so may not ever, hopefully, ever suffer to the extent they did. But I've heard people refer to the fact that, well, if God was really there, why did he let this, why did she die? Why did this happen or whatever? And we don't have to say that because we know that God's got the plan and he's,
Mhm.
And
That's
we don't have
what
to
I
be,
thought.
and we don't have to be surprised.
yeah,
by
we
it.
don't have to,
But we don't have to fear it either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're not afraid.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I was thinking about this applying to us.
Mhm.
versus-
And I think there's also a challenge here because it's almost like if it was worse, if you think about like how much the church grew when persecution happened, how many more people joined in, how many people held on to their faith because like awful things were happening to them. And it seems like that's the case. It seems like throughout the history of Christianity, when people are when their lives are threatened, they become more faithful. And it's almost like when we're not being threatened, at least our physical health or our very lives aren't being threatened, eventually we start kind of we're not as passionate
We slide
anymore.
we slide back into
familiar from
complacency.
Judges? Do you know how those?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think in if you go over, you don't have to turn there now, but if you want to look at some point in Hebrews chapter 10, the author of Hebrews says that to the people he's writing to, he's like, hey, you remember when you used to be thrown in prison, when you used to suffer, or you stood beside people who were being thrown in prison and bad things are happening to them because of their faith? What happened? And he basically says, y'all need to get back to that kind of passion, that kind of zeal again. And I think it's so easy for us when there's not suffering to almost become kind of lazy. Or at least for me, for
that's
sure, I do.
That's a
Yeah.
big faith, though.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not like our homes aren't being burned down. Our churches are still like intact, and we have the separation between church and state and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so and that's what Jesus talked about in Revelation. We can just slide very easily into I'm just so comfortable.
Yeah.
Remember 9/11? Do you remember 9/11?
Mhm.
After that, everybody was
Gusto.
praying.
Yeah.
Everybody was, suddenly, giving God
Right.
the praise and asking.
Because you had to.
A lot of times, traumatic things help us at least define our faith and hold on to it. Be more proactive with it. I will say, he uses some of your translations say fiery trial or fiery ordeal. The translation that I was reading from initially said painful trial, but it's the same phrase that he uses back in chapter 1, around verse 7. In 1 Peter chapter 1, in verse 6, he says, "In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you've had to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. These have come that your faith of greater worth than gold, which perishes, even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." That phrase there where he says refined by fire is the same phrasing that he uses here when he says this fiery trial. So he's already said it once, at the beginning of his letter. Hey, you guys are suffering and you're going through these problems. No, it's not fair. No, you shouldn't have to go through them, but you are. But ultimately, that's going to prove that your faith is genuine if you hold on to it. Let's just to continue this point. Let's read. Let me show you again verses 13 and 14, because he says, "Don't be surprised, but do what instead?" Verse 13. Rejoice, like celebrate that you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. And he says in verse 14, if you are insulted because of the name of Christ, what does that mean?
Blessed.
You're blessed. Way to go. Awesome. For the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. So hold your finger there and go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, and the first few verses of Matthew chapter 5 is a list of things that we call the Beatitudes. And it's basically his blessings. And Jesus says, if you're experiencing this particular thing in your life, you're blessed. God is doing good things for you. Look at verses 11 and 12. Would you read verses 11 and 12, Brandon?
It says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed, this is 11.
Yeah, that was verse 10. Go ahead.
Yep. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you.
Okay. And then go over to John. I know we went to Matthew. Go to John chapter 15. Now, this is a few hours before Jesus is going to be arrested. And then go through his torture and go to the cross. John chapter 15, verses 18 through 21. You got that?
I already mentioned that. What do you know? If the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you're not of the world, because I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Through 20?
Through 21.
21. Remember the word that I said to you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you too. If they kept my word, they will also keep yours. But all the things they do to you on account of my name, but all these things they will do to you on account of my name, because they do not know him who sent me.
Okay, so looking at those two things, and then fast forward, I don't know, 20, 25-ish years, and here's Peter telling some other Christians the same thing that he heard from Jesus, which is what? If people mistreat you because of the name of Jesus, what should you do? You are blessed, and you should rejoice, celebrate it. You should call up your friends and go, y'all ain't going to believe. Somebody treated me bad. Somebody insulted me. Isn't that awesome? That's what he's talking about. It's not just, kind of put a smile on my face. Rejoice means I am praising. I am thanking God, and I am sharing that celebration with other people. Why? Because I suffered for the name of Christ, and I suffered the same way he did. And Jesus even warns his disciples, like, hey, this is going to happen. So what did Peter say in verse 12? Don't be surprised. What does Jesus say years before? Don't be surprised. I'm healing people. I'm making people's lives better, and I'm sharing nothing but the truth. And I am not going around trying to start some kind of revolution. I'm a peacekeeper. I'm a peace giver. And I am raising the dead and giving sight to the blind. And what do people do? They hate me. So guess what they're going to do to you? If you are my follower, guess what they're going to do to you? They're going to hate you. Yes, ma'am.
There are record numbers of Christians in China now.
Mm-hmm.
And they truly are being
Oh, yeah.
persecuted and killed.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing compared to insults we might
Right.
receive.
Right. Yeah. There's people in China. There's people in India. There's people. Mm-hmm.
What I would do if I were in their shoes.
Yeah. I would hope that I would be as faithful as they are. I would hope so. You know, but it also, man, if you, I think, Peter doesn't say this, but I think when you do suffer for it, and you hold on to it, it means more to you. You know, it really does. It's the same thing as I mean, not the exact same thing, but it's similar to, like, when you go through, you go through an exercise program. I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to lose weight, and then you lose weight and you feel healthier. It means more to you. Why? Because I worked hard at it, right? When you were able to go to Germany and walk up and down all those hills, it meant more to you. Not just because you were there with your daughter and son-in-law, but because you went through all that work and all that training. Because that's what suffering can do for us. And Peter's saying here, Peter is repeating what he heard himself from Jesus. Don't be surprised. And when it happens, great. Don't sulk and don't be mad and don't try to retaliate. Celebrate it and keep doing what you've been doing.
I think that's the only thing that Christians can do, because it's kind of like what Lou was saying. It's like only God can turn real suffering into something that's blessed. Like only God can take those fiery things and for us to say, yeah, I made it through that, not because I'm strong, but because Christ is strong in me, and we were able to make it through that. And that's how we're able to read verses like in Romans, where he says everything is going to work together for our good. And you can look at the crazy things in this life and be like, I don't know. It's hard to see how God can make something like that good. But that's what he does. He takes all of these terrible things and it forms us to be more like Christ. And it, just like Peter says, it burns away all the stuff that isn't Jesus and leaves us so that we're looking in the mirror and we see Jesus and more Jesus and less Brandon. Which, that's to rejoice about, right?
Yeah.
That at the end of our lives, we look more like Jesus than ourselves.
And it's something, he says there in verse 13, there's going to come a point where you are going to be redeemed. There is going to come a point where Christ is going to be revealed, and people are going to be like, oh, that's why you held on to the faith that you did. Or you're going to be able to recognize that yourself. And it's interesting, in verse 13, it says, rejoice so that you can be overjoyed. It's like double rejoicing. Like, rejoice now so that, but even that word, at least my translation says, you can be overjoyed when Christ is revealed. That Greek word literally means to leap with joy, to jump up and down celebrating, because Jesus has come. That's what we're looking forward to. And so, can I put up with some suffering, with people insulting me and talking bad about me and maybe mistreating me a little bit here on this earth, so that I can celebrate being with Christ when he comes? Yeah, I can deal with that. And that's what Peter's getting at here. He's not saying it's not painful. It is. He's not saying it's not hard to deal with. It is. But rejoice anyway, because there's something better coming. And you're going to be able to really rejoice then.
Would you tell me those verses again? Matthew 5.
Matthew chapter 5 verses, I said I had 11, but you're right, 10 through 12. Matthew 5 verses 10 through 12.
And John.
John 15 verses 18 through 21.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, here's this other thing. In verse 14, he says you're blessed if you're insulted because of the name of Christ, which we've already talked about. But he gives an interesting reason why. Why does he say you're blessed in verse 14?
We have the Spirit of glory.
The Spirit of glory and of God.
And it rests.
What does that mean?
The Holy Spirit's in us.
Yeah, but we got the Holy Spirit in us. But this sounds a little bit different, right?
Feels like it's honest, it's
Yeah.
honest. Like it's that yoke,
Okay.
like the oxen carried it has been referenced in the Bible before. It's that spirit is resting on us. I can see it kind of like a laden or on top of my shoulders, just holding me up.
Yeah, maybe a yoke like on oxen. Yeah.
Well, there's I was trying to see if they're the same word, but one's in Hebrew and one's in Greek, so they'll just kind of work together or whatever. But I think if it's the same word that I'm thinking of, it's not that while we're going through suffering, Christ's or the Spirit comes and gives us some encouragement. It's like, here's encouragement, boop, and I go like, oh, you got it, boop, like Santa Claus coming and dropping off some gifts and all that stuff. But it's more like this blanket that comes down and wraps us very, very tightly. And I think if Peter's talking about going through all of that stuff and all these people, that's what you would want, right? Is like, I've got this fiery trial, all the things that are happening, and sometimes I'm surprised by it and all these insults and I just don't know what to do. And then it's like the Holy Spirit just like drapes you in rest. Oh,
Yeah,
some of that.
the two visuals I have, one is what happened, multiple Gospels talk about this. What happened when Jesus was baptized, when he came up out of the water? The Holy Spirit descended on him like a dove, right? So the Spirit came down to rest on him. not that he didn't have. I mean, he's got God's presence already. But it's like, it's a man. What's the word I'm looking for? My mind just went blank. It's like God testifying, this is not just my son, because this is my son whom I love, but it's also like he's acting on my authority. I am giving him my spirit and my approval to go do, like launching forward from this point to do what I want him to do. I also think of the story in the Old Testament, which not everybody may be familiar with, but in 2 Kings, when Elijah is getting ready to die, and Elisha goes with him, and Elijah, goes on this journey. Elisha goes with him, and Elijah, all of a sudden, there's this whirlwind and this chariot and horses of fire that come down, and Elijah gets in the chariot, and it just takes him away. Well, what of Elijah got left? Does anybody remember? Yeah, his cloak, or some translations call it his mantle. But just kind of this, kind of like a cape, but it would be something that you wear back in that time. It started raining, you kind of pull it up over your head, and, that got left for Elisha, and he started to wear it. And what now is Elisha able to do? Prophesy, perform miracles, like he,
portion, right?
Yeah, and he had this presence draped on him.
I like that.
Does that make sense? So that's the visual I have in mind when Peter says this. We have the Spirit living in us, but we have, when we talk about glory, like it's we are reflecting the presence of God. That's on us, and it is God's, not his approval. Like it's God going, this is one of my kids, and I have God's presence resting on me, and it reflects off of me in my actions, in my attitude, in my the way I treat people, because I've got his presence on me and reflecting off of me.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I think that's what Peter's trying to get at here.
Yeah, I like it's like the Elijah thing. God sees that we're going through all of that, and he like gives us a big warm jacket or something for us.
Yeah.
And he kind of wraps his arms around us, and then we go around as we're suffering in these things, and it's like, yeah, we're reminded that it's okay. Like I've got God on me and stuff too, and other people see that too.
Yeah, and that's what I think. It's this spirit of glory and the spirit of God, and I'm not trying to remove that from the Holy Spirit. I'm saying it is both in me, because that's what the Spirit does. The Spirit dwells in me, and that really is my connection with God. But then there's also the presence of God that's on me, that should be reflected out to other people, and how I act, the actions that I take, and the way I treat people, and hospitality, and the words, and all the things we've been talking about. And so Peter's like, hey man, if people are mistreating you, awesome, you're blessed. Why? Because you are reflecting the presence of God. That's why they're mistreating you. Because you are being different than you look different than the rest of the world. You shine out into this world in a different way, and they don't understand it, and so that's why they mistreat you. Any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, but thankfully, we shouldn't be mistreated for the next stuff.
Right. Yeah. So he does say, if you do suffer, don't let it happen. And he gives a quick list here. Don't suffer like a murderer or a thief or a criminal or a meddler. So just to I went through and okay, let's get the exact, what is Peter exactly talking about here? So murderer, I mean someone who commits a homicide. Don't suffer as someone who killed someone else. That makes sense, right? The thief is someone who steals somebody else's stuff, but by stealth, like in a sneaky way. It's not someone that goes and openly commits violence to take something from someone. So this isn't like pouncing on someone and beating them up. This is subversively, pickpocketing or what, I don't know, just doing it by stealth. Criminal, or do y'all have evildoer? Was there any other words there? Evildoer or criminal? Okay. And This is someone. The Greek is a combination of the words evil and to make or to do. So to make evil, but it seems to be used most often like someone who not just does something wrong, but like plans ahead of time. Like they make a plan to hurt somebody else, to do something harmful to someone else. Okay, and then the meddler.
Yeah, I just
Is that what you have?
And that
Yeah.
says busybody.
Busybody.
busy-
Okay, that's the other one.
Murderer and busybody.
Yeah, but it's almost like
Those
Say
things.
pot stirrer, too.
pot stirrer.
No.
Yeah, this.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
but yeah, because it's kind of like, Peter, as he's going through this list, like, don't suffer as a murderer or a thief or any other kind of criminal. And there's probably people like, okay, yeah, I got that. And he's like, and also don't suffer like a meddler. Like, what? Oh, what's it's almost like a bad guy in like a comic book, the meddler.
Yeah,
Don't mess with the meddler.
he's so evil.
Yeah.
He just comes in and like does little things like taking your chapstick from your
Yeah.
ears.
But the Greek word for this is the only time this word is used in the New Testament. This is the only time. And it's actually a combination of two words. One means something that belongs to somebody else. And then the other means like an overseer. This is actually a word that we use throughout the New Testament for shepherd or elder. Okay? So literally the word is overseeing something that belongs to somebody else. Okay? And that's what it meant. Like, you've got your business, your affairs going on, and I'm going to let go of whatever I need to be concerned with, and I'm going to come over and not just watch. I want to dive in and tell you, here's what you should do. Here's how you should handle this. This is the way that you should do this. Which, busybody is that's our English word nowadays,
Is that what your translation says?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's, a busybody.
A busybody.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
This also says interloper, snooper,
Snooper.
nosy parker. Here's one that hurts the worst. Backseat driver.
Oh, no.
That's
a
the Greek.
kibitzer.
And what?
Kibitzer.
Kibitzer?
Kibitzer.
That sounds like Yiddish or something. I don't know what a kibitzer
Yeah,
is.
I'm going to use that.
Backseat driver, yeah.
Backseat driver hurt. I know.
Yeah, I got that one. Man.
So, yeah, it's somebody that is looking at or hearing about something that has nothing to do with themselves and is like, let me tell you how to handle this. And thankfully, we don't have anybody like that in our churches nowadays. Or,
We're all content with their own stuff, right?
at least nobody in this room.
No.
Nobody in this room for sure. But it's interesting that he puts that in the same category as, the murderer or the thief.
Well, it goes back to sin is a sin. It doesn't
Right.
matter what
Right.
degree.
It's just harmful in its way.
And I think that's the key thing. Every single one of these things that he talks about is harmful to someone else. I'm taking your life. I am stealing from you. I am doing mean things to you. I am meddling in your affairs. Like, it's all me doing something to hurt somebody else. What'd you say?
A meddler can destroy a life.
That's true.
And
They can.
And their own reputation, because nobody wants to do business with somebody that is a backseat driver.
Yeah. So, and he says, if you're suffering for, if people are mistreating you, don't let it be for any of these reasons. Okay? Now, let me also throw this out. There are some scholars who think that Peter may specifically be talking about the tendency of Christians, maybe in this time, to try to get their Gentile friends to conform to, their Christian way of life, almost against their will. Maybe in their cities they're trying to get laws changed, or maybe just in their friendships and relationships they're trying to no, you have to act this way, you have to be this way, which is interesting because Peter's been saying, like, live your life in a way, offer hospitality, do the right things, treat people the right way, so that they will want to give their lives to God too. But if that is what he is hinting at, there's a definite distinction that Peter is saying here. I live my life the way that God calls me to. I'm not going to force you to do the same. I'm going to offer it, but I'm not going to force it. And I think that's an important distinction for us to make when we think about evangelism, when we think about sharing our faith, when we think about the kind of reputation that we are giving Jesus by our actions and our words. I'm not going to make you become a Christian. I'm going to live my life the way a Christian is supposed to, and I'm going to reflect God in everything that I do, and hopefully you are so moved by that. And that doesn't mean I can't have conversations with you and say, I think you should do that, but I'm not going to get into your affairs. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your finances, or your marriage, or your parenting to conform to what I think. I'll offer that if you want to know, but I'm not going to meddle in your life. I'm going to let you see Jesus in my life. And if you want to ask about it, okay.
I was thinking too about how the Jews were trying to make the Gentiles conform to their religion,
Yeah.
which I'm not going to say that there were times that the Church of Christ didn't try to do that. But
You're not going to say it.
I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes we think we have the answers for other people's problems, and we don't. We have the answer for our own. So, but it's easier for me to tell Mariette how to live her life than it is for me to live my
Yeah,
life.
and it's kind of a fine line, because I don't think the Bible is contradicting itself, but you do have Paul in Galatians chapter 6 going, hey, if you see somebody caught in a sin, if you see somebody struggling, you who are spiritual, restore them. Like, go tell them, you know. How do we
That's somebody that has
how do we mesh that with, well, you're right, it is somebody that has faith, but how do we mesh that with what Peter says here? I'm not meddling in their affairs, but I think those are two, again, similar but distinct things. If I see you making choices that are going to be hurtful to you or cause you to hurt somebody else, I can call that to your attention. It's still your choice as to whether you choose to do something different or not. But if I care enough about you, yeah, I'm going to bring that up. But I'm not going to and it can come in marriages, it can come into parenting stuff. I can tell you, like, hey, it seems like you're struggling right now. Like, how can I help? There's a difference in walking up to somebody and saying, how can I help? And a difference in walking up to somebody and going, let me tell you what you should do. There's a definite difference there, right? And I think that's what Peter's getting at here. You're going to suffer. People are going to mistreat you.
suffer for the good stuff.
Yeah. and just let your life be the reason that you're suffering, not because you're butting into other people's lives and telling them how to live. I don't know. Any other thoughts on that?
Because my life right now, I feel that with parenting and stuff too. I would say it wouldn't be loving if you guys said, "Oh, I'm not going to meddle in Brandon's affairs." If you saw any of my kids running into the street, I would want all of you guys to meddle into my life and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" But then in the conversation afterwards, if you made a comment about like,
What kind of parent are you?
"Oh, well, I mean, sure, you can do that."
Oh, sorry.
That's fire.
Is that suffering for?
Okay.
Okay.
Into a better parent, right? But sometimes there's the like, yeah, it looks like so and so is like not eating super well. I would do, we've struggled with that, and I would do like this kinds of things, and because then it turns into something that like you're saving me from, or me and my kiddos from actual trouble, into like I am gonna like poke my nose into it and do all that, which I want you guys to tell me all that stuff anyway. But he's saying maybe we don't need to do that.
And you brought up a distinction as well. It seems like he's talking in the context of outside of the church. Like, not that we need to meddle with each other's affairs inside the church either, but definitely don't be that kind of person in the community in which you live, where people see you as someone who sticks their nose in where it doesn't belong and tries to tell everybody how to live their lives. Don't let that be your reputation. And if you suffer for that, you brought it on yourself, which is similar to what he's already said in chapter 2 when he was talking to slaves. Is around verse 15 or so, where he says, hey, slaves, if you suffer because you were disobeying your master, that's don't be surprised by that. if you suffer for doing the right thing, awesome, because that's what Jesus did too. It's kind of the same principle here. You're going to suffer. Don't be surprised by it. Celebrate it. And just make sure that you're not suffering for murder, thievery, evil doing, or meddling. Make sure that your life is reflecting the one who is living in you and out of you.
So not control what you can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm here for that.
Yep. And then he finishes with, back to verse, where are we, 16. If you suffer as a Christian, don't be ashamed, but praise God. He's already said that again. But then he says this, for it is time for judgment to begin with the family of God. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who do not obey the gospel? And if it's hard for the righteous to be saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? Why does he bring judgment up right here?
Didn't he already hit that in the first part of 4? Because the time we're done with sin, we're not living in that anymore, and this is what they do. They've got sensuality, passions, drunkenness, orgies, drinking parties, all this idolatry and all of that. And we're not doing that anymore. Verse 5, but they will give an account to those who is ready to judge the living and the dead.
Yeah, then verse 7, he says the end of all things is near.
Yeah, so we're living our life with the realization that there really is judgment for us as well and how we live. And we also know that God, too, is going to judge those who do not follow him and that are following him, so we have to live like that, too. So, but he's saying, for it's time for judgment to begin at the household of God, because we're going to be held accountable for our actions, and if our name is written in the book of life, and if we're following Jesus and stuff. So God's going to know those things, and if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? It seems like we know.
Yeah, and it's I think it's a way of him saying, like, again, there's going to be justice one of these days, and you may be suffering injustice right now, but God is going to balance the scales. At some point, everything is going to come out the way that it's supposed to, and it's going to start with us. God's going to judge us, so let me make sure my actions are the way that they're supposed to be. Let me make sure my heart is where it's supposed to be. Before I start worrying about other people, what's my connection with God look like? What do people know about him because of me? Because, as you said, I want to have to give account for that one of these days, which is also what Jesus said. Even the things that we... every thought of our hearts and even the things that we whispered in the dark will be shouted from the rooftops. I'm like, ugh, I don't want those things shouted from the rooftops.
But everybody's
There's a reason why I said those quietly.
You might be considered a meddler.
I might be.
Yeah.
I might be. So, yeah. So, so he says it's going to start with us. And we know, or hopefully, we're going to live our lives in a way that we don't have anything to worry about.
Yep.
So these people who are mistreating you, I feel like Peter's almost like saying they're going to get what's coming to them. All of us are, positive or negative. There's always consequences to our actions. So if they are mistreating you, I think it's almost like they should know better. They can see the good in your life and they're still mistreating you. God's going to hold them accountable for that. And again, who's the one that's going to hold them accountable? Us? No, that's not our job.
Thank God.
That's his job. He's going to take care of that. So you keep living the way that you're supposed to, and stay in that relationship with God where you don't have anything to fear on the day that he comes. Okay?
Now, it's kind of like with the snowball thing. I see it as, for the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of God.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get our acts together.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to begin with us. People seeing us will see either she's got a good life because she believes in God.
Mm-hmm.
She may not be rich. She may not be powerful. But she's got a good life because she's content in her relationship with God.
Yeah.
They need to see that in us. Judge ourselves. Do you know? It's easy for me to judge Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
You
It's
got a
not
lot.
so easy. Yeah, I do.
He's got a lot to judge. So,
But it's not so easy for me to judge Lou. I can always make excuses for
Mm-hmm.
why Lou did what she did.
yeah. or why things happened to her, and she had to react to him that way. And
Yeah.
Kind
you
of
can.
connects with the meddler thing too. Of,
Mhm.
I mean, that's Jesus too with the plank. I mean, very easy for us to say like, "Wow, look at all these things." So God's like, "Hey, buddy, don't forget about this morning or last night." Or,
Yeah, this giant plank that's in your eye.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's telling us to get our acts right with him
Because it begins
before
with
we
us.
start trying to tell other people.
Yeah.
how to do right.
And I think again, this has been a continuous thought for Peter through this whole chapter. I know he didn't write chapter 4, but just this whole thing that we've gone through for the last couple weeks or a couple of classes that we've been together is Peter calling these Christians to a certain lifestyle that they already know that they should be living. But he's like, man, keep doing that. Don't go back to what you were doing before. Keep doing what you're supposed to do. Here's what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You love people. You are hospitable to people. You are kind. Here's what it looks like. And if people mistreat you because of that, fine. You are reflecting God. You are giving glory to His name by the way you live your life. And if they still want to attack you, that's on them. That's not on you. You can have a clear conscience because you are doing what it is that God calls you to. It's this continuous thought through this whole chapter. Okay? To a people who are already suffering. And Peter's going, yeah, you are. But here's the positive spin. Here's the way you can look at this from a positive perspective. And so he says there in verse 19, so then, those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and what? Continue to do good. Okay? I'm committing myself to God. I'm telling God, I am on your team. I am with you. I know you're with me, and I am committed to you no matter what. And then, how do I know? Because look at my actions. Look at my words. I want to keep doing good. Yeah, but what if people mistreat me? That's okay. They're going to mistreat me. But I want to keep doing good. Well, what if people talk bad about me? Well, fine. I can't control what other people have to say. I'm going to keep doing good. That's what he's calling us to. That's what he kind of started the chapter with and has ended the chapter with. And has kind of stretched that out and gone into details in between.
Mine, I'll just add this last thing. It says, or at least in the ESV it says, therefore let those who are suffering according to God's will entrust their souls. That's what God says, to the faithful Creator. And I love that, of like, all these things are happening to my physical body, these fiery trials or insults or even getting hurt. I mean, some of these people in the following, decades and stuff will be killed and brutally murdered in the arena and those kinds of things too. And you look back at something like this and like, thank God that they are only killing the body because I've entrusted my soul to the soul's Creator.
Yeah.
So even while I'm being ripped apart, I mean, that's the crazy part with some of the early church martyrs. Even while they're being ripped apart by lions and being boiled alive in oil and stuff like that, they are still... But you have to read some of those stories from like Fox's Book of Martyrs. It's super inspiring because they are literally dying, having their life and their soul is leaving their body. And they're like, they repeat the words of Jesus, God forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And people are coming from the crowds like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to die like this? And they're like, yes. It's worth every...
They're dying while they're singing praises and smiles on their faces and all that. Because they're convinced that there's something better.
Yeah, and so we don't need to fear one who can destroy the body.
Yeah.
Instead, we fear the one that can destroy the soul.
Yeah.
Makes me glad that we have Revelations to show us the justice and the mercy of
Yeah.
us
Amen.
us and those type of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the end
But
wins.
yeah, but also as you talk about Revelation, to go look what's waiting.
Yeah.
Look what we have to look forward to. Yeah, this sucks right now, but there's something so much better. So hold on to that. Stay committed to that. Okay. We finished chapter 4. Woohoo! On to chapter 5 next week, okay?
Just took Sharon being here.
So I know we had to have Sharon come back and we got it finished. So we'll get into chapter 5 next week. So hope y'all enjoy the sunshine today.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who plans to come Saturday to the Women's Day?
Woohoo! Oh, that's almost everybody.
That's awesome.
Were we supposed to call and
No.
say we were coming?
No,
I
I did
didn't
call.
think we were, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
why we do signups.